Ciao, ciao, dosto. Welcome to another episode, and I have a special guest with me. But before I introduce him to you, I'm going to talk about a city which is famous for Renaissance. मतलब यूरोप में मिडिवल यूरोप में मिड सेंचुरी यूरोप में जब यूरोप का काफी रिसेशन चल रहा था, आप बोल सकते हो, एक ऐसा शहर था जहाँ पे आर्ट कल्चर ट्रेड एवरीथिंग sort of came back and it spread to all of Europe. And that city is Florence. And the man that we're talking about in this video is David De Gea. And with that, I bring in Kaustubh Pandey. Welcome to the chat, bhai.
Thank you, sir. I've been here for the ninth time or something like that. But yeah, good to be back and
Yes,
talk about the GOAT.
absolutely. So Kaustubh is, a contributor and a chief editor of Get Italian Football News. He's a Man United fan and he's got a soft spot for Fiorentina. So, मतलब ये जो Venn diagram में ना, to talk about De Gea, there is no one who's as perfect as you are, which is why I wanted to have this chat with you. Let's start from the top, man. I mean, this guy, the last game that he played, he ends up saving two penalties in a game. Did you ever in your wildest dreams imagine that David De Gea क्या ये renaissance होने वाला फ्लोरेंस में?
Nah, to be honest, I don't really know if I expected it to be a renaissance. I thought he would do fine. Because we did
Right,
that Calcio Chacha wali stream about
right.
hot take. They also mentioned something about De Gea being having a decent season. But I didn't
Yep.
expect him to make three penalty saves in like 3 months, which is as much as he did in his 11, 12 year career at Man United. He couldn't do it when it was needed. I will never forgive him for that during that Villarreal Europa League
Europa League
final.
final. Yeah.
Something I will never forget in my life. After which life became very hollow. Falling in love with football became very pointless. And he was the reason for that. And like probably not he was probably wasn't alone in that, but yeah, he's been pretty good. अभी हम मिलान वाले मैच के बारे में बात कर रहे थे. He made a really good save of Samu Chukwueze as well in the I
Yeah.
think 88th to 89th minute.
Yes.
अपने we were speaking about him a lot on our group chat as well during that game.
Right. Right.
Um, and all of us were shocked because we expected him to do well, but we never really expected him to do as well as he is. For two reasons. First, Fiorentina have a Pietro Terracciano curse. You must have seen that meme, which circulates online. Apna, the Viola Nation guys posted
Right.
a lot that death bringer sort of meme where Terracciano makes sure that every new goalkeeper who arrives at Fiorentina goes out. That includes Dragowski as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of other keepers as well. Last season भी वही हुआ था. A lot of the fans expected that Terracciano is going to do the same because he's been doing that for the like 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah.
But I think there was the first game that he played De Gea in that Conference League playoff. That's when that meme popped up instantly. That's when I thought, yeah, Terracciano is going to be ousting De Gea basically once again like he's done in the past. That's not happened, and that was after the fact that Terracciano was probably linked with an exit as well. वो club छोड़ के जा सकता था very
Right.
late in the summer. Fiorentina thought we'll keep him as backup to De Gea. I thought that's a recipe to end De Gea's career, but
Right.
that's probably the most shocking thing for me that Terracciano people have just sort of forgotten how good Terracciano was. Not saying he was as good as De Gea or as good as De Gea was against Milan, but that he's lifted that curse off in a matter of I guess 5-6 games.
Absolutely. And look, this is a guy who spent 1 year out on the sidelines. Let's not forget that. He was without a club. He was probably one of the highest, earners at Man United. Very heavy salary. And of course, he got a lot of criticism. I'm going to lead to this question. I'm leading to this question because मेरे को यही पूछना है कि as a short stopper, his ability was never questioned. Like, we all agree that he was a good shot stopper at United also. But the main issue was that he's not able to play the ball with his feet like a modern goalkeeper, right? So now when he's come back, okay, just let's ignore his initial start at Fiorentina, but just the Onana situation at Man United. He is a ball playing keeper. We've seen him at Ajax, Inter, and now at United. Do you think De Gea was kind of treated harshly by everybody around him? Ki yaar, chalo, he's not a modern keeper. Let's kind of phase him out. What are your thoughts as a fan, as a Man United fan?
I agree. I mean, I was very critical of him in that last season, especially around the time where he made those two errors against Sevilla, which cost United the game. And he wasn't a stranger to making those errors in these major games either. And that was probably the peak, but still in a way the tip of the iceberg because वो बहुत बार होता था. You saw in these crucial games, especially these European games where it mattered or when it was about European qualification, he somehow managed to mess things up. And I think a lot of those errors in his last season were ball playing errors. But at the same time, if you go back and look at his numbers over the last in his United stint, uska jo 1.5 season tha, last 1.5 season at United, his shot saving was probably third lowest in the Premier League as well. So that was declining. I remember that 21-22 seasons, in the second half of that season, those numbers just fell off a ridge. The shot stopping or
Right,
XG saving numbers, which matter for goalkeepers, they were bottom three, and that was not a good look. And combine that with the fact that he made these errors on the ball, was never really someone who knew or understood how the first phase of builder works, which Onana does exceptionally well. हमने देखा है, not just as you mentioned
right.
at the 3 clubs he's been at. But I think the way it happened, United treated him very badly. And I still think, and I feel guilty of it as well, because I criticized him a lot. But
Yeah,
once we knew that it ended, I just felt bad that he's been treated a bit. It seemed very off, basically.
yeah,
The club
yeah,
sort of pushed around, sort of handed him a contract, backed away, and then handed him something once again. That is not how you treat a club legend,
yeah,
regardless of who he is, especially when he's always been a professional. I mean,
yeah.
there have been players in the past, I mean, I won't name them, obviously, you know what I'm talking about, who are so called legends and not behave professionally. उनको
बिल्कुल.
निकालना made absolute sense. Or to probably not treat him as well as United did. It made a bit of sense. But De Gea has always been very professional. His
Yeah,
weaknesses exist, yes. They सबको पता था. He has weaknesses, even when shot stopping की बात होती थी last 1.5 seasons में. But United handed him a contract, pulled it back, handed him a contract again, and then thought, we're not handing you a contract. And a lot of United fans blame De Gea for everything, but this is during that Glazer ownership era,
yeah,
Glazer protest era. United had 2 opportunities to let him go, and they were probably their best chance to sell him and secondly sign a better goalkeeper as well. Better in
yeah,
terms of a more complete goalkeeper. Better is a very subjective term. A more complete
yeah,
goalkeeper. This is during that fax machine scandal when Keylor Navas was desperate to join United. He actually
yeah,
cried when he could not really join United when that move fell through. And then in 2018, I think that 18 or 19, when he had the chance as well. So he remained very professional throughout, which I respect a lot. He had his weaknesses, but a lot of fans completely treated him as if he's never done anything, as if he's Anthony or something, as if he's, I don't know, as if he arrived for, I don't know, 200 million and he's done absolutely nothing.
yeah,
And I felt guilty of it as well, beach mein. Which is why, if you look at a lot of what I tweeted or wrote, I always said that I really hope he does well because he wasn't really treated well.
Yeah.
And he's someone who was always professional. And for me, मैंने काफी बार वरान की काफी तारीफ करी है. That's because he is someone you can go to war with. And I think
Yeah.
Daya was always quite the same. And I have massive respect for that, especially considering United में क्या situation थी. A lot of player power stuff, a lot of unprofessional behavior, these dressing room leaks. De Gea was never ever a part of that storm. So
Yep.
he deserved a lot of respect. I still think that exit is very bittersweet. At the same time, Onana's I think replaced him fairly well.
Yeah.
Probably been the best goalkeeper in the Premier League numbers wise. But yeah, I think it still leaves a very bitter taste in my mouth the way everything went down. The fact that he should have left way earlier, जो कि club की गलती है, not his own fault. And the way the club treated him, handed him a contract, pulled it back, then said no, we're not handing you a contract. वो uncertainty थी end तक. It still makes me a bit sad that a club legend was treated that way, especially because he was professional throughout. Even during the bad times, पता होगा आपको 11-12 season he was a disaster, and that's fine. He was very young. I remember watching a lot of those games and thinking who will we sign, and that's what a lot of United fans and the British press thought as well. But he stuck through that period, came through it, and he proved himself and became a club legend. वो लोग भूल जाते हैं. And I think that's what social media is. I guess it gets very ugly. It becomes a cesspit in a way. So yeah, it still makes me sad a fair bit, which is why I always want him to do well, regardless of where he goes. Yeah, he has weaknesses, but जैसा वो कर रहा है अभी, the way he has started, makes me feel really happy for how it's gone.
Look, when I was doing a bit of research for the subject, I went back to my old tweets, and as a Roma fan, I've actually written that Pau Lopez is in better form than De Gea, which might be true, but Pau Lopez is nowhere close to a a keeper like De Gea. मतलब बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, just before the pandemic hit, उस समय पे, when De Gea was basically called up for Spain. But my point is that as a fan, हाँ बिल्कुल, as a fan, you do have these reactionary takes. But what as someone from the outside, as someone who's not a United fan, again, as you rightly said, when he came from Atletico, he was this fresh faced kid, lot of heaps of potential, and I think the club stuck to him. It was just the post Fergie years, so there was this culture at the club, sticking to your player. बिल्कुल 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 बिल्कुल. So huge shoes to fill. Yeah, absolutely huge shoes to fill. And gradually he did come good for United. But as you mentioned, that his exit, probably the way that the trend has been going with United players, kind of they leave on a very sour note, and then आप देखते हो कि when they go outside they flourish. So uh, as someone who's from the goalkeeper union, and who's made a lot of snide comments on De Gea's near post attributes, attributes, I honestly feel horribly bad, and I'm so glad that I'm eating my words and watching this renaissance of David De Gea, who's kind of like, it feels that the pressure is off, and it three penalties in 3 months, like you mentioned, three, and it's not like he's suddenly become a ball playing keeper, but it's just so good to see that he's come back to his best, and he's at a place where he's trusted. And of course, I'm so happy that he's playing in Serie A in Italy. It just gives me so much of joy to see him perform week in, week out. Yeah.
And it's like one thing I've noticed about him at the Fiorentina spell is that at United, one constant criticism for him was that, like, probably the second biggest criticism for him was that he never came outside his line to make these catches or punches, or
Right.
to, if it's a corner and it's fairly close to him, he would rather have Harry Maguire deal with it,
Right.
instead of coming out and catching the ball or punching it away. And this led to a lot of goals going in as well. But agar aap dekho at Fiorentina, he has actually probably realized that this is a mistake. This is something he wanted to improve in, and in every game he's made these punches and catches as well. He's coming off his line. Sweeper
Yep.
keeper, I don't know. He probably never will be. That was never part of his skill set.
Right.
Going forward, that might not keep him in good stead because Fiorentina evolution is going to be them transitioning into a very possession-based system
Yeah.
under Palladino or any other
Under
manager in the
Palestine.
future.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, but one thing he's improved in is, apart from penalties, is these um, claiming crosses, these punches coming off his line, being a bit more proactive. Like he was never really a leader. He was never vocal. He's a bit of an introvert. If
Right.
you he's never someone who speaks too much.
Right.
Okay, interviews, maybe if you listen to him, he's not someone who's too expressive. Probably didn't know the best of English at United as well. And
True.
Spanish is close to Italian, so I'm not sure usko kitni Italian aati hai. Probably understands, but that might help him as well. Becoming a bit more vocal. So far, he's been a bit silent, just sticking to what he's been asked to do. But since this is Fiorentina and not Man United, where you have more personalities, say,
Yeah.
जब De Gea था, you from the very start, from Van Persie, from Rooney to Carrick, Scholes, Giggs, from even to fairly recently, you had Bruno being captain, then Maguire being captain. A lot of these, even Shaw, the more one of those
Yeah.
experienced players, Cavani being there. So the responsibility comes to be a leader. But now the responsibility would be to be a bit more vocal and be a leader. Professional to have, we're not doubting that, but can he be that leader as well? That's what I want to see. Probably like the next stage of his evolution. If it doesn't happen, it's fine. So I
Yep.
don't have an issue with it because वो अपना काम कर रहा है. And this is, as you mentioned, limelight come hai. So
बिल्कुल.
might as well. You never know.
बिल्कुल. And it's so poetic that his renaissance is happening literally in the city that is famous for renaissance. मतलब, you couldn't have scripted this better, and at a club that you absolutely adore, the Viola. So, last segment, Kaustubh, I want you to use your crystal ball and gaze into the future. I hope that De Gea stays in Fiorentina and Florence for some time. But where do you see him go after that? Do you foresee a return to English football at some other club, or maybe a return back to Atletico Madrid? How do you see De Gea's future? Probably his last stop before he, hangs up his gloves. What do you see happening?
I think he's probably going to stay here for about 2 years. 2 years being, I'm considering this to be his first year, and then
Yep.
25, 26 being his second one. I think he'll be 35, 36 then. And I think after that he goes to the MLS because he's rejected approaches from the Middle East already. Uske paas offers the, he didn't go there. And I think largely because he rejected the idea of going to the Middle East. And that if you consider his past with Jorge Mendes, who split from him about during that Bojo the phase I talked about, 18,
Right.
19.
Right.
Mendes is the one who takes a lot of his clients to the Middle East.
Right.
And he's not associated with this with De Gea anymore. So I somewhat think he goes to the MLS. I don't think Atletico jayega because Atletico are a different sort of ball game at this point. Fiorentina ke baad, regardless of how he does, this is probably his last club where he can have a shot at playing in Conference League football, or maybe next season Europa League or Champions League to
Right.
nahi hoga, or Conference League or Europa League football. So a big part of me feels that he's going to the MLS. Premier League nahi jayega because I think there's too much United in him to play for any other
Sure.
club. but there's also a chance he might play for the lesser clubs in Spain. Something like, um, who do I compare that to? Maybe someone like, I don't know. Jasa say
Girona,
some No, not Girona. Something like Real Oviedo, basically.
Real Oviedo, Osasuna, maybe.
Osasuna, Mallorca, because Mallorca,
Mallorca.
Matt Hummels could have gone to Mallorca. It's a
Yeah, yeah,
good place,
yeah.
almost like Como.
Como, yeah.
Where Fabregas. I was thinking
Anywhere
of
but
Fabregas.
Getafe. Anywhere but
Anyway,
Getafe.
that terror ball club. But I think I was thinking of Fabregas because he went to Monaco, then came to Como, played a bit here and there for them, Fir became that assistant
Yeah,
manager, and then the manager once he got those coaching. I'm not saying Haya will be a manager. I don't think he's got that manager in him anyway. I think it's either a low key slash fancy Spanish club like Oviedo themselves, or something like Mallorca, or the MLS a bit like Hugo Lloris, who had a
yeah,
similar trajectory at Tottenham, similar sort of criticism as well, where Tottenham
right.
fans and a lot of Premier League fans said that he makes these errors around everything after a point. Similar age, I think Lloris is probably like 2 years older as a coach. He's probably 36 or
Yeah,
37, they are 34, something like that.
right,
So I think something like that. I know the reason why Lloris went there was probably because of the French connection.
right.
There is no your Spanish connection as such, apart from Inter Miami,
Inter Miami, of course.
but there's no De Gea connection apart from the Beckham Man United connection. So I think that can be an avenue apart from your, as I mentioned, the second or third grade Spanish teams where he can just chill and live a decent life away from the toxicity that Man United or sometimes even Serie A can bring.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. I hope that happens. But for now, I hope that De Gea continues his renaissance in Fiorentina, and
And he stays
I think
away from the Terracciano curse. I'm
yeah,
still
absolutely.
I'm still so concerned. अभी भी लगता
It
है
is.
कि
It is.
that curse can come alive at any point. कुछ भी हो
Yeah,
सकता
yeah.
है.
Bilkul, bilkul. Look at Dragowski, man. I mean, he was such a talent, and everyone had eyes on him, and suddenly he's fallen off the radar. But I think that's a topic for a separate discussion. And if you're a Man United fan, and if you've come till here, and if you want to hear Kaustubh and me talking about Chris Smalling, leave a comment below because वो भी एक pending है to talk about Smaldini and his legacy in Serie A, of course. And we have parallels again. Kaustubh United fan, I'm a Roma fan, so it's a lot to discuss about Chris Smalling. That's pending. So if you want to see that video, leave a comment below. But that's it for this week.
Let's speak about that 6-2 game someday.
Let's not speak about that 6-2 game. And Fonseca at the number 6 is कुछ तो है यार उसमें 6 substitutions 6-2. It's a lot of there's a lot of PTSD, especially for me as a Roma fan, and all the games against Man United. There's a lot of PTSD that's been stored, but we'll chat about that as well. For heck's sake, it's better to speak about it, emote everything out, vent everything out, and move on once and for all. But thanks so much, Kaustu, for joining in. यार मजा आया chat करके. I know कि this was something where we've not actually opened stats or analytics, but these are chats that I love having because this is from the fan. I mean, I was the fan in you rather than the journalist or the analyst in you. And of course, we all want the hair to do well here. So thanks so much for coming. And guys, अगर आप लोग ने subscribe नहीं किया है, do subscribe to the channel. And if you want that Chris Smalling video, leave a comment below. And Kaustubh's links, his Twitter handle, his Get Italian Football News page, everything will be in the description box. Thanks a ton, buddy. I'll see you sometime soon, and stay tuned for more content. Until next time, ciao ciao.